Since the launch of RLUSD, as far as the stablecoin market is concerned, RLUSD has, shaken the stablecoin market. And of course, reason why that is because, of course, it has that regulatory clarity behind it. And time out, I've discussed, how I see a lot of these centralized exchanges, actually integrating RLUSD. But let's watch this video right here. Angry Crypto Show, the host on that really explains this perfectly, and then we'll kind of come back and discuss a little bit more as to, what we could be expecting. So let's watch that.
It's just like a UI. And so the RLUSD is approaching $600 million in issuance. I was taking a look at the pace of growth for RLUSD compared to Tether and USDC, and they're matching, if not beating, their pace. When you add the fact that Ripple has been getting all these bank licenses and RLUSD is NYDFS compliant, enterprise grade, XRPL, Ethereum, and many other chains likely in the future, plus monthly attestations, US based, Ripple is like perfectly ready, set, go for the United States. It's like just perfectly aligned.
So as we can see, he also mentions that, in terms of RLUSD, as far as stablecoins are concerned, obviously the non-compliant ones are not going to be used. It just doesn't make sense. And how RLUSD could take a huge market share and take over the US, and just makes sense because remember, when you talk about these big corporations, these big financial entities that want to, move funds back and forth using stable coins, they want something that has that clarity. They want to know whether or not that, reserve even exists. And we know that's where RLUSD checks all the boxes. And whether you want to, tokenize your assets. Sorry, I lost myself for a second. Whether you want to tokenize your assets or send money cross-border payments, that's where Ripple literally checks all the boxes, and that's where that one-stop shop really kicks in. So we could really see that big picture really coming in front of us. But let's take a look at what's happening with the price of XRP today, and kind of go over some of the news. Looking across the board right now, going into Sunday morning, we're actually seeing quite a bit of green across the board. A lot of utility projects feeling the love right now. So considering it's a weekend, we're seeing very impressive price action, which is amazing to see, of course. So big thumbs up for that. XRP is priced right now $3.13, but it's actually down right now about 0.6% in USD and about 1.2% in Bitcoin comparative, with the valuation sitting at 186 billion and the 24-hour trading volume at about $3.8 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So Google searches for crypto has reached a new yearly all-time high, and this shouldn't be a surprise. We are seeing a lot of altcoins feeling the love. Ethereum is obviously gaining a lot of traction. XRP, pretty much on the verge of breaking yet again a new all-time high, and of course that's going to bring in a lot of attention. And this intention is not only coming from the sophisticated investors or the smart money. We're also starting to see retail starting to focus more on crypto, specifically altcoins right now. So that is a big key takeaway, for us. And look at this: there's now a 92.1% chance that the Fed cuts interest rates in September. So, more likely than ever, I think, we are going to see that rate cut happening, which I think is going to have a really good impact on the market. I've said this in the past on my updates, because already the month of August is starting to look really positive for the crypto space. Usually Q3 is not too good for crypto space, and this is by far the best Q3. You can see this for yourself. This is the best Q3 Ethereum has ever seen. So we're talking about Ethereum hasn't seen that. We're talking about the second largest coin, and that is due to institutional demand. And even BTC is actually looking really, really good so far, as far as Q3 is concerned. Same with XRP. So you're starting to see that shift that we're seeing happening, and that is due to the institutional demand. But I personally project, even if we were to see a rate cut, which of course I think there's a huge chance of that happening next month, I think we're going to actually see the market retrace the day of. But I think that's going to be short lived, and we're going to see the market thrive because, of course, I think it's already starting to somewhat get priced in as of now. So that is something I kind of am projecting right now. Of course, I'm sharing my personal thoughts with you guys. Only time is going to tell, but I do personally believe that we're starting to see that kind of slowly start to get priced in because Bitcoin reached a new all-time high this month. We saw XRP retesting very close to that, and also on top of that, Ethereum is about to break towards an all-time high we haven't seen since 2022. So those are things that we don't want to be forgetting. But going back to XRP, so as we know, ISO 222 is being discussed so much now, and time in time out, you want to really see the role of XRP. The XRP and ISO 222, the value of the protocol of the internet, two separate documents. Same exact phrasing, a value protocol for the internet. ISO 222 is positioned as a standard. XRP is described as the value transport layer, undeniable connection, the value protocol for money, the transport layer for value. And for the first time in history, investors can own direct stake in the internet value layer itself by accumulating XRP. And on top of that, Trump's pro-crypto policies will fuel the growth of public blockchains, XRPL, and utility tokens like XRP. Very, very interesting things to kind of keep in mind. But now let's take a look at what's happening with the price, and then we will kind of wrap up the update. So if you're looking at the dominance, it's pulling down quite sharply. This is very, very nice to see, and obviously we could pretty much go down to our August lows. Based off of the way the dominance is, going down. Obviously, still of the weekend, we need to keep that factor in mind. But the way the dominance is moving right now is something that you want to be getting excited about, in my opinion, because, if it continues to go down the way it is, I am projecting, we could actually go down to the, monthly lows. The yearly lows, which would be quite, the monthly lows, apologize. But if you're looking at BTC, Bitcoin has pushed up back up to $118,000, which is amazing to see. Obviously, if we're able to break out of this key resistance, 120 could even be retested. But if you're looking at XRP, $3.12 right now. Yes, it's not seeing, a move back up to the $3.34. Don't expect that to happen overnight. Obviously, we do have significant amount of resistance at this range, but that does remain to be the target. So far, so good. Still, accumulating quite nicely. Yes, people have already forgotten where the price of XRP was back in November of last year. But it is what it is. People forget, that is up to them. Some people still ignore it regardless of the price, accumulating pretty much right below its all-time high. But so far, so good. Like what I'm seeing here. Obviously, I'll keep you guys covered with all these updates. So we'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.